Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guest we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you do subscribe so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted to be joined today by Gavin Critchley, Deputy Leader of the EMEA Customer Office at SAP. So welcome, Gavin.
Thanks for having me, Craig. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing how to get the most from SAP support and, quite importantly, I think, how to create the perfect support case. But before we get into that, I've got a quick question for you, Gavin, if I may.
Great, yeah, go for it.
What piece of DIY are you most proud of?
Oh, my word. I'm pretty good at kind of fixing kitchen utensils, okay? So when the washing machine breaks down or when my wife's mixer doesn't work, I'm right up for a bit of that. So I'm quite happy to get the spanners out and have a go at it. So things like changing the brushes on a washing machine motor. Craig, the offer's there, okay? So wow. if your washing machine, if you suspect that the bushes have gone on it, don't call out a plumber. Give me a call and I'll come and do it.
I remember that, and we have this now recorded for eternity, of course, Gavin.
Yeah.
And I am very impressed because when you said kitchen utensils, I thought you were talking about a fish slice or a spatula.
No.
That's fantastic.
No, if it's got a motor, then I'm quite happy to have a go at it. And interestingly, I'm colourblind as well. Okay, so you don't want me rewiring your house, but I'll give it a go with something that I can unplug, and you can plug it back in.
Oh, that's amazing. That's fantastic. And I must admit, when I kind of had this question thrown in front of me, I immediately thought of some bathroom work I'd done at home. When we moved into our house, we had quite a very large bathroom. The bathroom was about 16 foot long. So over the years, we were making changes and we thought we want to change that into two. Can we make it into an ensuite on one side and a main family bathroom on the other side?
Yeah.
So my father-in-law's always been in engineering and things. He's like, I'm sure we could do that. Well, we did have some indoor waterfalls in the kitchen a couple of times. I nearly lost the father-in-law through the ceiling into the kitchen at one time. But we're so proud that Bodgett and Scarber actually did the job. The bathrooms are still there and they work. So I'm really proud of that. There were some lumps and bumps.
You can come and do our bathroom, okay? Because that needs some TLC, and you've got my number and the commitment to come up the A1 to Stockton-on-Tees or wherever you are, and I'll do when the washing machine breaks down. I'm good with washing machines.
Oh, fantastic! That's brilliant. I'll bear that in mind. Well, as long as you don't mind indoor water features, I'm all right with a bit of plumbing. So just moving swiftly on, if we may, Gavin, and on to our main topic of discussion. And just to get us started, could you please give us a bit of background about yourself, your role, and the focus of the EMEA Customer Office at SAP?
Yeah, so I've been involved in SAP since the first day I started work for Esso Petroleum back in September 1990, and I turned up on the first day. I was a graduate and in the IT world, and met with my kind of new manager, and he said, well, we've just implemented this German system and it's called SAP R2, and he gave me an English-German dictionary and he said, you're going to need this, okay, because all the help is in German. And here I am, kind of 34 years later, after doing stints in industry, doing SAP, stints for a number of the partners. So I've worked for Accenture, Anderson's it was back then, for PwC, for Capgemini. I've done industry stints as well, doing Oracle and Great Plains and other cloud solutions as well. And this is actually my second time at SAP. So when I came back into SAP this time, I was into the customer office, and the customer office is where we deal with high level escalations. So, we're one of the few teams in SAP that doesn't have a revenue budget associated with us. So we're there purely to fix things for the customer. So normally what happens is if one of the regional presidents or if one of the MDs gets a problem which is really stuck within the machinations of SAP's bureaucracy, we're a German company, so there's a fair bit of bureaucracy in there. They call us out and we get involved. And so we typically get involved when things are hot, when something's gone badly wrong, the admin and the processes within SAP have got stuck, and we come in to fix it. And the genesis typically of a lot of these problems will be an SAP support case. And for customers and for partners, typically what happens is they'll have a partner organization that will be providing support. And support can be something as simple as, can you refresh my password, please? And you'll phone up your help desk, and that's an L1 level thing. Can you refresh can you restart a printer? Can you refresh a user ID? Then if there's something wrong, like this report doesn't look right, the columns are in the wrong place, that'll be L2. That might go offshore or somewhere like that. But then when there's a real problem and your partner's stuck, that's when they'll raise a case with SAP. They'll go into SAP for me and raise a case, and that will come into the SAP organization. And it's that case, which is a bit like if your car breaks down and you call the AA, or if there's an emergency at home and your plumbing's gone wrong and you need something, or the wiring for the washing machine hasn't worked properly and suddenly you need the fire brigade. Making sure that the information that you put in that case is accurate and enables us as the emergency services for your SAP world to react to it properly, that's really important. And that's what I'd like to chat about with you over the next however long.
Thank you. And so just looking a little bit about that and support and raising of support cases, etc. What is the process that most organisations go through when seeking support? You talked there about L1, L2, L3, and what are the actual process customers should be thinking about going through in seeking support?
So, kind of generally, very generally, customers have their own SAP support teams, and it's important that you understand kind of the business impact, and we'll talk about this as we go through kind of the hints and tips that I've got. The business impact and understanding what it means for you as your business is really important. So, for example, if you've got one of your users in your organization, Craig, that can't access SAP, might be really important for them, but if the rest of your business is operating all fine, that's fine. So you typically, as a customer, would acknowledge there's a problem. You would get in touch with your internal help desk. They might then answer it or not be able to answer it. They would lay it off to an L2, who would typically be a partner organization, support organization. If they can answer it, great, you close the ticket. If they can't answer it, then it would come to SAP as a case. You raise the case within SAP for me. Pretty much 90% of the time, cases are raised by partners, not customers. But for the listeners to this podcast, I assume most of them are going to be SAP customers. Understanding the mechanics of raising that case and what goes into it is really important, because what we find is some partners are better than others in that, and it's definitely worth understanding, what's behind the back of the washing machine when you take the back of the washing machine off.
Okay, I'd like to come back to that in a bit more detail if I can. And
Yeah.
just while we're on the points, you've mentioned partners a couple of times now, and a lot of customers, and I'm certain, will get their support through their partner. So, what role do partners play in this, in the success of these support cases and ensuring customers kind of get what they need?
Right. So partners are kind of our trusted counterpart when dealing with a case. So typically, it's the partners that are raising the case, and the case has information in it that relates to the priority of this incident, what the components are within this incident, who it's impacting, and so that's the 90% of the time it's partners that are raising that, and then they will report back to customers to say, okay, we've raised the ticket with SAP, it's over for them now. So we within SAP are trusting that the partner is actually reflecting everything to do with this incident, to do with this problem. So we need to know who it's impacting, the total business impact. Is your business closed? Is it one user? Is it 1,000 users? We need to know the components that are impacted. We need to know that it can be replicated. And then for us within SAP, if you think about where our support networks are, they're not all based in Germany. We've got support networks that are in China, Canada, the Far East, Brazil. And we need to make sure that your partner's there so that we can get in touch with them and at the drop of a hat. By the time it comes to SAP, the clock's ticking, and the customer, so you, are saying, when's it coming back up? What's the story here? So what you want is a very fast interaction going on between the partner and SAP. That's what the customer expects, and that's what we want. Elapsed time to getting you back up is the most important thing.
Thank you. And so, also, something else that just came to my mind there when you were talking about the stages, the L1s, the L2s, the L3s, etc. Where does perhaps customers' centres of excellence or expertise come in?
On the customer side,
Yeah.
Within your customer organisation or within SAP?
Within the customer organisation.
Yeah, so I think that they'd be L1. So I think they would be, certainly if you had a problem within a customer organisation and you've got a team there that is responsible for reports or responsible for procurement, that would be the first place that I would go. If I'm creating a purchase order, or if I'm creating an RFP and I don't understand kind of the actual, some of the screens that it takes me through, or some of the process of that, I think I'd be going and finding out who the SAP super user is, or who the SAP Ariba Centre of Excellence person is within the customer organisation. Certainly that's how we do it. Then if you find that Ariba or SAP or SuccessFactors can't do what you expect it to, that's when you'd go to your external support. Am I missing something here? And then after that, you'd go to SAP. You'd go to SAP if you think there's a problem with the SAP product. And sometimes what we see when we answer cases that have been raised to us is we don't get actual SAP product problems. We get consulting problems. So we get how-to problems that are raised by partners. So a classic example is around tax handling. So a partner organisation won't understand the mechanics of tax configuration within SAP. Nothing wrong with the SAP product. SAP can do tax handling quite nicely, thank you. But the partner won't understand how to do it. Now, for us within SAP, there's nothing wrong with the product. It's a partner understanding. It's a consulting question. So we're quite happy to answer it, but we might say this is a services issue. SAP can do it. There's nothing wrong with the product. If you need help answering it, services is where you go to.
Okay, thank you. And another thing you touched on is SAP for me. And what's the importance of SAP for me in this process?
Right, so SAP for me is the customer's window to everything that they're doing with SAP. So if there's a customer listening to this and they've not seen what SAP for me is, or they've not got access to it, I'd really encourage them to do it, because SAP for me, it brings you, it gives you a window on your licenses, on your consumption of those licenses. It gives you all of the kind of commercial details about it. It gives you information about service levels, about where we've adhered to with what your products are. It gives you important news if we're doing anything with regards to maintenance of any of the SAP products that you're lined up to. It's kind of like your window on your SAP world, and as well there, it's got the place where you can create SAP support cases. I'd really strongly recommend that customers, if you're involved in SAP and you're a customer, make sure that you've got access to SAP for me. It doesn't cost anything. Everybody gets it. That's it. That's really important.
Wow, were you just saying there's something from SAP that's free?
Well, you've already paid for the licenses, okay? So it's kind of like that. So I don't think anything's free from SAP, is it? So,
Fantastic, thank you. And well, that's really interesting. So we're looking at there just in my, I suppose, simplistic mind. You've got either build a centre of expertise, or have your super users who you can call on to look after your L1, your simple fixes. Your L2 is where you would go to the partner, and however, if it's a SAP product specific issue, then that would get routed to SAP either via the partner or straight from the customer. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
And typically, by the time that it hits us, it tends to be a problem. It tends to be a problem. Yeah. If your partner's doing the right thing and doing their homework, when it hits us, we acknowledge it's a problem.
Okay, and you can use SAP for me. That gives you the full overview of everything that you have from SAP, your licenses, your contracts, but also you can put your support cases in there and track them and see what's happening with them in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay, got that. So I'm a customer now. I'm in SAP for me. I'm looking to build a support case, and I think into the crux of our conversation now, Gavin, what are your tips to create the perfect support case?
Right, so there's a top 10, and I'm going to spin through them, and if you want to put the kind of the top of the pops theme behind it, kind of then that's absolutely fine, and we might come back to the washing machine analogy. So the first and most important thing is make sure that you only put in one problem in one support case. So if you've got a problem with something like a report that's taking a long time to run, that's one problem. Don't then subsequently say, well, we've got a support that's taking a long time to run, and another thing, we can't get access to SAP SuccessFactors, and then by the way, we've got this other report. When we open it up, the information is rubbish. That's three. Okay, so what we sometimes see is customers tend to nest problems. That creates an issue for us, because inevitably there's going to be different support teams responding to it, potentially in different locations, and each one of those problems could have a different level of interaction. So for example, we might fix kind of like the delayed transaction, and then we'd say, okay, that's ready to test, and then we would knock it back to the customer or for the partner to test. Meanwhile, the report that's just got garbage data in it, that's still being researched by another team in another location, and that's not ready for anything. So number one is try and keep one problem to one case.
Got it.
Cool. into number 2. When you're creating the case, make sure that you've done your homework when you're creating it. And SAP makes it easy for you. So within SAP, for me, as you create the case, guess what? We've got some AI tools which will start to pull up SAP notes related to known problems associated with this mythical kind of delayed transaction. The AI will also try to drop in components so that within SAP we know which component support teams to look at. And basically what we're encouraging you and your partner to do is to make sure that you're doing the homework before it comes to SAP. Because guess what? As soon as we get that case, the first thing that we're going to do is look for open SAP notes related to this incident, look to see if the components are correct. So the more checking that you can do, that you and your partner are doing on your side before it comes to us, will save us that elapsed time, because SAP doesn't have a magic wand. We're going to have to go and do that ourselves.
Thank you.
Right, so then into number 3, and there's some funny anecdotes with regards into this one, is when you create the case, make sure that the way that you describe it is short but meaningful. And let's use the washing machine one. Okay, so washing machine not working. Okay, that's no good for us. What we want is washing machine no longer works. Last time I used it, there was a burning smell. Tends to be when I'm using fast rinse. That's the kind of information that we're looking for. We get some absolutely classic SAP support cases that say things like SAP not working, or it says things like Joe can't get access to SAP, and that's kind of meaningless for us. So then what it means is that we need to go into it and start to dig into what the actual ticket says, what the actual case says, before we can do anything with it.
Thank you. Number 4.
Number 4, right, is around kind of being honest with regards to the priority, and this runs both ways. Okay, so if you're a manufacturing industry and SAP powers your shop floor, and you can't operate your shop floor because SAP isn't supporting it, that's a business down situation, which is what we would call a P1, a priority one. And that's really important. It gets a high level attention when it comes into the SAP world. You know, everyone's going to be looking for that. But as we touched upon at kind of the top of the program, if Alex in HR can't access their success factors screen, that's not a P1. You know, that's a P3 at the most. And hopefully your centre of excellence or your partner organisation will be able to fix that, and it'll be a reset of a password, or it might be there, you know, it might be a network issue at your side. But making sure that you are honest with regards to the priority when you create the case is super important. Now, we actually see it both sides. We actually see customers that over-egg it and say, this is hugely important to us, it's a P1, we can't manage our business. And then we also see it where customers are kind of like embarrassed to make out that it's a P1. They're like, oh, we'll put it in as a P2. It's not urgent today. So it's not urgent kind of at the start of October, even though potentially it could be a payroll issue problem at the end of the month. So if it's the start of the month and you're doing your payroll early runs and they're not operating, we'd prefer to know about those early on and get those in at the right level. If your payroll's not operating the day before you send out your funds over to the bank or to your employees, that's a P1. You know, that's definitely a P1. If you've not got revenue coming in, probably a P1. If your trucks aren't going out, probably a P1. If your manufacturing lines are down, probably a P1. If Gavin can't access success factors, it's not a P1. It's not a P1.
Understand, get that, because that manufacturing line's a key thing. And if I look at SAP's customers, and I think the fact is it that 90% of the biscuits in the UK go through SAP. Everybody needs a jammy dodgers and the wagon wheels. That's P1 all day long.
Yeah.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UK&I SUG membership with those who don't know about us? The UK&I SUG referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Now, on that subject, okay, the next one kind of is around context and business impact. Okay, so it's kind of related to it's related to that thing. So the audience for this podcast is primarily UK customers. Okay, and you'll have some big names within there, and I might pick up on some of the names of some of the customers well known within the UK. And you said jammy dodgers. Okay, so I know what a jammy dodger is. I know who Greggs are. I know what Guinness is, and I know some of the names of some of our other customers. Okay, some of our support teams are in China or Brazil or India, and they've got no idea who, for example, Greggs is. And so when you're creating the case and you're talking about the business impact, and you were to say something like, I'm assuming that jammy dodgers are made by McVitie's, right? But if you say something like, the jammy dodger production line is down and we've not been able to make jammy dodgers for the past 24 hours, means a lot to Craig, means a lot to Gav, might not mean anything to somebody in one of our support areas. So making sure that you've got that detailed business impact that your partner might not even be able to do, but you can, is really important. So we've got some fashion industries within the UK. You can imagine who they might be. If their SAP online store isn't working and it's on the run into Christmas, making sure that the business impact says something like, it's the run into Christmas, our biggest retail event. Typically our revenue per day is £50 million, and our online store is not operating as we expected it. There's delays and customers can't access it. That's a good response. What we even see is that some customers have that as boilerplate, and they will copy it into the business contacts within the case so that the partner doesn't have to constantly write it again. Your partner might not even be in the UK. Okay, so your partner might be offshore, taking this L2 problem to be an L3 problem. And so making sure that that business context is accurate goes a long way for SAP to understand how we're going to deal with it. So it comes back onto some of the earlier things. If you've got a problem, make sure that you are posting it at the right level, and make sure that the business impact is accurate. So number 6, right? So SAP is a complicated product. Okay, it's more complicated than our mythical washing machine that we were talking about earlier. But the analogy goes, okay, within SAP there's lots of components that are glued together so that you get the products that you want. As you create your case, AI tools within SAP for me will start to populate some of the components that it might be, and they might be security, they might be authorization, they might be tax components, financial components, procurement components. If your partner suspects they know what the component is that's an error or isn't working, make sure that the component is listed in. So, the washing machine analogy, if you think it's the pump, tell us it's the pump. If you think it's the motor, tell us it's the motor. If you have a suspicion that it's cloud integration gateway between Ariba and procurement, don't be shy in telling us that, because that means that we'll look at it and we'll route it to that team. Now, SAP is complex, okay? So what we sometimes see is that a customer will raise a case. They'll say, we think we've got a problem with this component. Our tax engine's not working. We think it's the tax engine component. We go and look at it, and in fact, it's not that. It could be a different component, but the actual symptoms are seen in one area. So what you do see with cases, and your partners will be familiar with this, is cases can get switched between one component support team in one area and another component support team in another area, and they can bounce a little bit. That can be frustrating for the customer and for the partner. It's a reflection of the complexity of SAP.
Thank you. On to number 7.
Right, now we're on to number 7, okay. So this is around, when I do this live, Craig, this is where I put on my Gordon Ramsay chef's hat. So what we like to do within SAP is replicate the problem. So for us to be able to fix it, we need to be able to see where the problem is and actually whether the problem is, whether we can recreate it. So what we're looking for from partners is kind of, how did it happen? When did it happen? Were you able to recreate it? What else was running at the same time? Has this happened before? Does it only happen on a Monday night when you're doing a bankroll? Is there anything else going on within your world? So if you've got logs, that's really important, because again, what we want is as much information as we've got so that we can then focus in. Yeah, that's right. We can replicate it. We can see that it's a problem. Yeah, we can replicate it on our side. We can nail it down to that component. Yeah, there's a problem there. Or something's not been patched, or there's an SAP note about it, blah, blah, blah. So making sure that we can reproduce it is good.
Excellent. So almost like what was your recipe for disaster, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly that. So it's
Chef's
the recipe thing. Yeah, it's the recipe thing.
Okay, and moving on to number 8.
Number 8 is when things go wrong, people tend to get quite emotional about it, and what they're looking for is keep me up to date. Okay, so what we want are up-to-date contact details for partners and for customers. Okay, if it's a P1, our expectation is that there's somebody from the partner and or the customer available all the time. And in this day and age, people are a little bit reluctant to start handing out mobile phone numbers. But if it's a P1, typically that's going to be potentially a career impacting situation. You know, if you're ready to go live, or if payroll's down or the shop floor's not working, somebody needs to know about that. We do get situations where, hey, we've got a P1. All right, let's phone up. There's no answer, you know, and we're like, well, if it's a P1, someone's got to be there. You know, this is supposed to be really important. So don't be afraid in the case to put down multiple names of contacts. And, you know, if you're an operations manager, if you're looking after SAP in one of your customers, you know, we're quite happy to phone you up in the middle of the night. And typically it'll be somebody like me or or one of the managers from the Mission Control Centre, the de-escalation managers, or it'll be some of my buddies from my team. And we'll be the ones phoning you up saying, you wanted to know what was wrong, so we're giving you a call. Better that you know about it in the middle of the night than you're waiting to walk in the morning. So keep those contact details up to date.
Thank you.
Number 9, we're spinning through this, aren't we? This is fantastic. If you think that there's a problem with your SAP system, you're going to need to give us access to it. So that means that there's going to be a basis team, or as you know, you were talking about one of your SAP centers of excellence, that's going to be need to be there to give us access. in the old world, it was a basis team. In the new world, as we move to cloud, it's a different mechanism. We're going to be bringing out kind of the fire brigade. Hopefully it's not Gav that's fixed that washing machine and it's gone up in flames, right? But the analogy's there. So when we turn up and we're the fire brigade, SAP wants to bring its people in to actually start to look at the system. We're going to need access. Sometimes access to your SAP systems is a significant elapsed time. Again, typically it's done by a partner organisation now, and if that partner organisation isn't working to UK timelines, then it can be 24 hours before SAP gets access to your system. So as you're raising the ticket, if it's a P1, make sure that someone from the partner organisation or your centre of excellence is saying, SAP might need access to this, make sure you know how to do it, get ready to rock on this. And then leave it open. Leave that access for SAP open until it's no longer a problem. What we see is, for very good reasons, when customers give us access, they'll say, okay, we need to let Chris in to fix this P1. We're going to do it for 48 hours. I'm pretty certain they'll fix it in 48 hours. We don't fix it. It gets to 48 hours. Access is dropped off, and then it's another 24 hours to get it done again. So best practice from our side, selfishly, is open access for whoever needs it, leave it open until we're definitely sure that it's not needed, and then we close it down again.
Excellent. And wrapping up with number 10.
Number 10. So when you do start to hand out those credential details and you do start to give access and passwords, okay, don't put it in the case. Put that in a private area, because typically some of these accesses that you're going to give us are pretty open accesses. So you want to make sure that you look after those. Don't put it in the chat. Make sure that it goes in an encrypted mechanism that you've got an audit trail over. You'll need it for your audit records, and we'll definitely need it for our audit records.
Fantastic, thank you. Really appreciate you going through that, Gavin. And one of the things I kind of picked up from that, I think, is be prepared. You talked about having perhaps a boilerplate text that maps out the context and the impact for your business. You talked about being ready with ensuring the contact details are all updated. You talked about being ready to give access to systems, etc., etc. So there's a lot of, I suppose, preparedness there that customers need to think about. And I suppose, like you say, if you have that as boilerplate readiness, it makes the process easier.
Yeah, it definitely does. Okay, and I think so most of the time it's going to be your partners that are creating the cases, right? But as this is a customer focused show, if you're a customer and you know the way that this case mechanism works, that's really important. All of this that I've spoken about in the past 30 minutes is covered by an online SAP support accreditation piece of training. And I think I've given it to you, and it'll be in the links to the show. It takes about an hour and a half to go through. For anybody that's involved in the SAP world on the application support side or on the operational side, go through it because it's changed over the past 6 months. And if you've got a partner team, I would say it's mandatory that they've done SAP support accreditation, because if they don't understand the way that to create SAP cases properly, you might not be getting your money's worth there. Because if you, as I've said, if you create an SAP case and it doesn't have the right priority, it doesn't have the business impact, it's not got the components, and we can't recreate it, do you know what? It's not going to, it'll come on the radar, but it'll be off the radar pretty briskly. Whereas if it says, this is the business impact, it's costing us this much, we've been able to recreate it, We think it's these components. Here's the customer name, and you can phone him anytime you want, and he's the CIO or is the head of operations or whatever. Here's the lead partner that's looking after it. We're like, right, well, we've got everything now. We can crack on, and we can look at this. So that SAP support accreditation, it's not easy, it's like an hour and a half, and it's changing as well. So it changes all the time as our support processes change, and as we get, there's more AI content, that kind of thing.
But very useful to have that in your armory as well, and to understand what's required, even if I suppose you're not actually doing it, if your partner's doing it, so you can understand what should be getting done. I assume is that on learning.sap.com, and I know we'll share the direct link.
Yeah, I think it is on learning.sap.com. It's open, I'm going to say it again. Do you know what, Craig? I think it could be free. And so free for customers and free for partners. And if I was back in industry and I was looking after an SAP operation, I'd be making sure that my partners that are doing my support are accredited in that. I'd be checking that they're accredited in that and they understand the way. It's like when you phone the AA up. You need to know that you've checked the battery, there's petrol in the car, you know what the red lights are, and you've done the basics there. And then the business priority is around, well, the car's actually in the drive and I'm not going anywhere. There's a difference in that between I'm on the side of the motorway, the kids are in the car and we're going to the hospital. It's a kind of different priority. So that's the mindset that I think about when we're creating SAP support cases.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And what I'm really hoping is that in maybe 10, 15 years' time, somebody's actually listening back to this and it's still proving relevant, but their question is, what's petrol in a car? But anyway, as we come towards the end of our discussion, Gavin, which has been fascinating, with the increased adoption of automation and AI, you touched on AI elements earlier in the discussion. How is that changing how SAP supports its customers? So
that's a very prescient question, okay? So we've seen it within the past 12 months. So on the customer side, when you create a case, AI will help take you through that case creation, and it'll call out, hey, have you seen this SAP note related to this? Have you seen, we think it's this component on this side. And so on your side, you get that. On the other side of it, when it comes into us, AI is looking at the text that's in the case, and it will do a summarization so that it comes up to say, this is high priority. So if you've not marked, if in the case you've not included the business impact, if you've not included components, it gets a lower prioritization when it comes to us on the AI side. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the automation side of it. There's still a human interaction there just to kind of double check that's right. So yeah, we're seeing it on our side too with regards to that automation. In an ideal world, there wouldn't be the SAP products would never fail. Now what we do see is, I was looking at the stats for this for 2022 within the UK. I think we had something like 1,200 cases, which came down to actually less than 50 SAP pure product problems. So wow. What we do get is we get a lot of cases raised, but then actually when it comes down to a pure product problem, it's very, very rare. It can be on either side of it. There can be an integration problem, or there can be a security problem, but actually a problem with with the virtual SAP product, very, very rare.
Thank you. And I suppose in closing, any final words, anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with to help them get the best from support? Yeah.
So I'm more than happy to come to an SAP customer to do this. Okay. So hopefully I'll see you at one of the user group sessions. But if you've got an SAP team on site, offshore, whatever, invite me along and I'll do this session. And I want customers to get the best from what they're doing with SAP. And, you know, the support side of it's important too. And, you know, knowing how to raise a good SAP case is like knowing how to use the AA or the emergency services or the Coast Guard. Okay, so you can find me online. There's not a lot of Gavin Critchleys, so you can find me online. And if you ask, you don't even know, you even need to ask nicely. Just ask, and I'll come along. If there's jammy dodgers there, if your washing machine's not working, we can do that too.
I was just going to say, actually, you better make sure you take your tool bag, because at Linda we have a row of washing machines ready for you to see to, as well as the SAP system.
Now, my tool bag is a very nice German one. It's a Vera one, and you know, I love a nice German toolkit. So yeah, I'll turn up with that. I'm pretty certain I can do your washing machines.
Gavin, thank you. Thank you very much for your time today, your insight, and also your offers to fix the world's washing machines. I really do appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure, Craig. And hopefully I'll see you soon, and we can slot in some time at one of the user presentations, and we'll do it live.
Definitely. I'll certainly take that forward with our team in doing that. So thank you very much, and thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Please make sure you do hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our future episodes. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and be prepared.